What's going on YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Today I want to speak on Tim Bradley and his upcoming fight with Brandon Rios, okay? Before I get into the actual fight, let's talk Teddy Atlas and Joel Diaz, all right? Now, Joel Diaz has been Tim Bradley's longtime trainer, okay? And Tim Bradley departed ways with Joel Diaz, and now he's working with Teddy Atlas, all right? So I'm not going to get into the details on their relationship because I really just want to stick to facts, okay? But Tim Bradley is now with Teddy Atlas, okay? Now, Tim Bradley hasn't looked overly impressive lately. You know, he lost a rematch to Manny Pacquiao. He had to fight the tough draw with Diego Chavez, a guy that was knocked out by Keith Thurman. He had a tough draw with him, a lot of headbutts. It was a pretty ugly fight, but it was a war. It was a lot of damage in that fight. Tim Bradley has been taking a lot of damage, since the Provodnikov fight. Okay, so, that fight was a draw with Diego Chavez. And then after that, he fought Jesse Vargas, young, undefeated Jesse Vargas, a fight that he won, but there was a controversial ending to that fight because of Jesse Vargas hurting Bradley bad in the end of the fight, the lasting seconds of the fight, and the ref made a mistake in stopping the two of them because he thought the fight was over when it was still a good 10-12 seconds in the fight, and Bradley was badly hurt at that time, okay? So even though Bradley was winning the majority of that fight, this was the worst we've seen Bradley hurt since the Provodnikov fight, okay? So the trainers, all right? Now, let's start off by saying there's no way anyone can actually predict whether or not this is a bad move for Tim Bradley. Okay? Obviously, the chemistry between him and Joel Diaz has fell off. Okay? They just don't have the relationship that they did. As far as what I've heard. Something wasn't right. Now, if you watch the fights, Tim Bradley, who is a very experienced, very seasoned fighter. I made a video a few months ago where I was speaking on how much he deserved a Floyd Mayweather fight, and it will never happen. Tim Bradley lacks discipline. He doesn't stick with the game plan. Even when he is the more talented fighter, the more skillful fighter, he doesn't stick with the game plan. And he's used to going in and get into wars with fighters that he shouldn't get into wars with. All right, he just doesn't stick to the game plan. And when I'm watching the fights, he hasn't listened to his corner. Joel Diaz will be screaming at him about what he should do and what he should not do, and Tim Bradley does the exact opposite when the bell rings. Okay, so there has been issues there. So with that being said, even though many people feel that he's on the decline or that this is a very, very dangerous fight coming up with Brandon Rios, which I agree with, it's a very dangerous fight, I don't think being with Joel Diaz would have helped him in this fight coming up. Okay? If Tim Bradley loses this fight, it's a fight that I think he would have lost either with Joel Diaz or Teddy Atlas. All right? Because Tim Bradley obviously is declining, and he's not even listening to his trainer mid-fight for the last several fights. Okay? So the chemistry between him and Joel Diaz is just not there. All right? Teddy Atlas, I don't know what's going on between Tim Bradley and Teddy Atlas and camp, okay? We can't just sit here and assume that because Joel Diaz has been with Tim for a longer time, that Teddy Atlas can't improve Tim Bradley in certain aspects as a fighter, okay? Maybe the lack in chemistry that he had with Joel Diaz was a reason why he was having so much trouble in fights he should have looked impressive in. Okay, that I'm just putting it out there. I'm just playing devil's advocate right now. We won't know until the fight, and there's no way to predict that. That's what I'm saying. All right. We all know, like recent years, Miguel Cotto and Freddie Roach they look good together. Miguel Cotto has looked impressive since he's been working with Freddie Roach. Marcos Maidana has looked impressive since he started training with Robert Garcia. Okay, so we don't know what happened. We won't know until the fight. Um, but what I will say is that Brandon Rios is a tough fight. Okay, and I don't think Tim Bradley, even if he is to squeeze out a win in this fight, I don't think he's going to look impressive. Okay, I seriously doubt he looks anywhere near as impressive as Manny Pacquiao did against Brandon Rios. Now, Tim Bradley definitely has the skill, you know, the talent to beat a Brandon Rios convincingly. I just don't know if he can do it at this stage because this is another guy that is used to getting into wars, Brandon Rios, and he's great at it. Tim Bradley said that he would never get in a fight again with Ruzan Provodnikov, but you're pretty much doing the same thing by getting in the ring with Brandon Rios. And you can argue that Brandon Rios right now is better than Ruzan Provodnikov, okay? Brandon Rios, even though it was against Mike Alvarado, Brandon Rios looked very, very impressive against Mike Alvarado in that third fight. I don't know if Alvarado was at his A game. I know he had a lot of things going on outside of the ring. But you can argue that Brandon Rios looked very, very impressive. I think he did look impressive. There was things that I've seen him do in that fight that I haven't seen him in more recent fights, even in a rematch between him and Alvarado. Brandon Rios looked very, very impressive against Mike Alvarado in that third fight. The combinations, okay? He was even slipping punches. He was bringing the pressure on, but he was a little smarter with it, okay, defensively as well. So I was impressed with Brandon Rios in that third fight, okay? And coming into this fight, the problem with Tim Bradley, like I said, is his discipline. He likes to go to war with guys that are stronger than him, that are bigger punchers than him, and that could be his downfall in this fight if he does not stick to the game plan. He likes to wait until he's badly hurt a couple times before he starts to smarten up like he did in the Provodnikov fight. All right. Another thing about Tim Bradley is that he slows down. He doesn't fight at the same pace for 12 rounds like a Brandon Rios does. So this is a very, very dangerous fight for Tim Bradley. If Tim Bradley were to lose this fight, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't really know who's going to win this fight, I think Tim Bradley is the better fighter overall. He should be able to pull this fight off and win. But based on what I've seen in him lately, he can very well lose this fight, okay? Get hurt, get dropped a couple of times by Brandon Rios. If he chooses to fight Brandon Rios' fight, and even if he fights a smart fight, it's still going to be a tough fight. It's a very, very tough fight. If Tim Bradley, I'm gonna go as far as saying this: if Tim Bradley were to beat Rios and look very impressive doing it, I mean more impressive than he has looked in his most recent fights, more impressive than he did in the Provodnikov fight, I would say that it would have something to do with Teddy Atlas being in his corner, okay? Because like I said, obviously, the chemistry between Tim Bradley and Joel Diaz, it just wasn't there. It wasn't there. I know Diaz was there for a long time, but Bradley was not listening to him. And I'm not saying he would listen to Atlas because at the end of the day, once you're in the ring, whatever you practice and train for in camp, doesn't mean you're going to follow through with it. Tim Bradley is a seasoned fighter. He's been doing the same thing in the ring for years now. He's been hurt plenty of times and down in his career. Okay, and you know what? He might still fight the same. He might go to war with Brandon Rios, all right? Regardless of what Teddy Atlas tells him during the fight, before the fight, or whatever. But there's no way you can predict whether or not Teddy Atlas, it was a good choice for him, over Joel Diaz, okay? Because Tim hasn't looked impressive lately anyway. I think Tim has been in too many wars lately. I don't think it was a good fight to pick to be fighting Brandon Rios. You know, I know I said I wanted the Kell Brook fight. I would have liked that fight to happen. Both Bradley and Rios were in the talks of fighting Kell Brook for his IBF title. Neither one of those fights happened, so now they're fighting each other. Okay, but Kell Brook has said publicly that if he is to beat Diego Chavez in December, that he wants to fight Tim Bradley next if he is to beat Brandon Rios. All right, and the way I look at it at this point is, if Tim Bradley, because I don't think he's going to look impressive. That's just my personal opinion. I think this is a very dangerous fight for him. And even if he pulls off the win, okay, if he happens to win this fight, I think he's going to take a lot of damage in this fight again, okay? It's going to be another war in Tim Bradley's pages of wars. And if he is to go and fight Kell Brook after, a guy that has very good boxing technique, a very highly skilled boxer that happens to have punching power and is very strong, not a guy you can just bully. You know, we've seen what happened with Kell Brook and Sean Porter. Tim Bradley, a guy that's usually muscling around and, you know, is very strong, not a big puncher, but very strong physical fighter. He's not going to be able to just bully Kell Brook like he's done other fighters in the past, like a Devin Alexander in the past, or he can't just bully what's this guy name? The young fighter he had just fought in his last fight. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. I was just talking about him, but anyway, you get what I'm saying here. Kell Brook coming off of a war with Brandon Rios and then going to fight Kell Brook might be too much, you know. And I think Tim Bradley, I honestly believe that Tim Bradley is running out of time. I mean, how many wars are you going to keep getting into? You know, he's taking some major damage. Ever since the Provodnikov fight, he hasn't been the same. And I think it's going to start catching up to him. And the reason why these fights are happening anyway, because his promoter is not doing any business with Al Heyman and the PBC. We have all those long list of welterweights over there that Tim Bradley just won't fight. And now he's stuck with fighting guys that, yeah, the people don't want to really see these fights. But, you know, nobody's asking for the Brandon Rios fight. But because he's over there, it just makes sense to put them together. And this is another dangerous fight. It's just like fighting Provodnikov all over again, you know? So I think Tim Bradley's in a little trouble. If it happens to win this fight and escape with a win here, he's still got to fight Kell Brook possibly early next year or sometime next year, you know, and that's going to be another tough fight, a fight that I'm not too sure at this stage he can win. You know, I mean, Tim Bradley on his best day, I would probably say he can beat Kell Brook, but Tim Bradley right now beating Kell Brook is a lot harder than a Diego Chavez and a Jesse Vargas. That's what I was trying to bring up before. Jesse Vargas. Kell Brook is a better fighter than these guys. Better fighter than Brandon Rios. You know, a guy that has power, has strength, and he has the skills and technique to go along with it. Tim Bradley has it rough right now. You know, and I really don't know how much longer he's going to go. You know I seen him say earlier this year or sometime maybe last year that he was thinking about retirement. I saw the video on Dante Nation's channel when he interviewed Tim Bradley. You know, I don't know how much Tim got to go, but he didn't get the Floyd fight. And me, honestly, I think he should retire pretty soon, you know. But we'll see what happens with this fight. If he is to look impressive and if he is to win 9-10 rounds against Brandon Rios and dominate him in similar fashion that Manny Pacquiao did, then I would say Teddy Atlas had something to do with that. You know, I can't just straight up hate on Atlas because we all used to seeing Tim with Joel Diaz, even though with Joel Diaz, Tim hasn't looked impressive lately regardless. All right? He doesn't listen to Joel Diaz, period. So we'll see what happens. But just wanted to make a video. I was gonna do a prediction video, but like I said, I'm not really sure who's gonna win this fight. I don't know what the odds are looking like. But if Rios is a huge underdog in this fight, I might put a few dollars down for Rios, like I did with Lemieux against Golovkin. You know, I might put some money down just for the hell of it, see if I get lucky. You know, but if I had to pick a winner, I would pick Bradley, just just to be on the safe side because I just think he's a better fighter overall. But stylistically, right, and based on styles and timing, I think Brandon Rios is a very, very dangerous fight. One of the most dangerous fights for him at welterweight at this current time. All right, I think guys like a Rios and a guy like Maidana right now wouldn't be uh, a smart fight for a Tim Bradley at this moment, especially the way he's been looking lately. All right, but that's my video, man. Leave comments, let me know what you think, and make sure you subscribe.